Welcome back. All right. So now we're going to take a look at the Dallas Stars and the Minnesota Wild. You know what's interesting is I expect this series to attract the least amount of interest from hockey fans, and yet in this house, there's tremendous interest. My wife being a fan of the Minnesota Wild, yours truly being a fan of the Dallas Stars, and I thought, you know what, for this preview, I should wear Minnesota North Stars. Now, technically, the Dallas Stars are the former Minnesota North Stars, and the Minnesota Wild is a whole new franchise. But the Wild, of course, recently wearing throwbacks that have a similar color scheme to this, and so this is an interesting matchup. It's happened before, just on one occasion. 2016, Dallas won in round one, 4-2. I remember that series. I remember my one concern with that Dallas team in 2016 being goaltending, and that kind of being borne out in the results eventually. But yeah, Dallas got through the first round. For Minnesota, they last won a round in 2015. I can only assume that this channel's existence is why Minnesota doesn't win a round. So I would like to apologize to Minnesota fans everywhere. Minnesota 46-25-11 on the season. Dallas 47-21-14 on the season. So the differences between these teams, when you look at the records, it's not that different. Not really. Minnesota fell out of contention in that last couple of weeks when it came to first place. They went on an incredible run when it came to a point streak, but in the end, they end up third in the division. So I do expect most of the vote to go towards Dallas. So far in the votes that I've put up on the channel, it would appear that it's pretty lopsided in favor of one team or the other, except in a couple of series, and once those polls are done or gone far enough, I will definitely do a video on that. But I expect people to be picking Dallas. During the regular season, if it went to a shootout, Minnesota won. If not, Dallas won. So the shootout victories were on December 4th, 6-5, and February 17th, 2-1. Minnesota winning both of those. Dallas struggling when it came to after regulation and getting into overtime. It will be interesting to see if that occurs in the playoffs. If this series sees a couple of games go to overtime, does Minnesota win those games? Does Dallas' struggles? And I know people say, well, it's 3-on-3 overtime is different. Yes, but it's still a next goal wins, winner take all kind of thing. And so I do think that those overtime records can matter. Now, Dallas won 4-1 on December 29th. They also won 4-1 on February the 8th. So if the game was done in regulation, Dallas won, and the score tended to be kind of a little bit lopsided, not tremendously, but a little bit. So if we look at the numbers, they do favor Dallas. The power play, 25% as opposed to 21.4% for Minnesota. The penalty kill, 83.5% for Dallas, 82% for Minnesota. Goals for per game, 3.43 for Dallas, 2.91 for Minnesota. I feel like there needs to be an asterisk with the Stars, too, with their offense, though, because it can be so hot and cold. But it's been hot lately. They've won 8 of their last 10. Goals against per game favors Dallas as well, though not by anywhere near as much. 2.62 goals against per game for Dallas, 2.67 goals against per game for Minnesota. So really close there. And I think in goal, it could end up being closer than people think. I know Ottinger had a fantastic playoff against Calgary. I don't expect that Ottinger again in this round because it's really hard to play that well, that consistently. Not that I don't think he can, just it's tough for goalies to replicate that year after year. So Jason Robertson leads this team in scoring with a remarkable 46 goals, 63 assists, 109 points. Robertson absolutely electric for most of the season. And when he wasn't scoring goals, well, then he picked up the assists. 109 points is fantastic. He does not equal the Bobby Smith record of, I think it's 114 points, but that's just fine. Bobby Smith, of course, wearing North Stars when he did that. Jamie Benn, 33 goals, 45 assists, 78 points, has refound his game. Clearly, Peter DeBoer has found a way to unlock both the offense for the Dallas Stars and Jamie Benn and the player he should have been over the last few years and really hasn't been. Joe Pavelski, 28 goals, 49 assists, 77 points. All he does is produce. And it's remarkable how, as he gets older, it doesn't seem to have any negative impact on him. I must find out his secret. Max Domi has not had the effect for Dallas that I think they wanted. In 20 games, 2 goals, 5 assists, 7 points. And if plus minus means anything to you, he is a -6 over those 20 games. So leaving Chicago and playing more of a secondary role on Dallas clearly has been a bit of an adjustment for him. Now, if we're looking for a depth player that I think can score a big goal in the playoffs, I went with Yoel Kiviranta because why not? Kiviranta has done it before. There's no reason he can't do it again. Jake Ottinger in net, of course, 37, 11, and 11 on the season. .919 save percentage. Last I checked, that's pretty good. Wedgwood, 9-8-3 on the season. .915 save percentage for Wedgwood. Last I checked, that was pretty good too. But of course, Ottinger has to be the goaltender of record during the playoffs. They couldn't afford to lose him to injury. On the Minnesota side of things, Kaprizov, 40 goals, 35 assists, 75 points. So Kirill does reach 40 goals in his return. It's good that he's healthy. You've got Zuccarello, 22 goals, 45 assists, 67 points. Boldy, 31 goals, 32 assists, 63 points. And health is going to be a question mark. When you look at Johansson, 20 games, 6 goals, 12 assists, 18 points. They'll miss him for any games he doesn't play. Foligno is a character guy who might be able to produce a big goal for them. 7 goals, 14 assists, 21 points for Foligno. Bit of a down year offensively from him. But again, the Folignos are generally guys that if they're not producing offensively, they're still useful for you in other parts of the game. Marc-Andre Fleury, Philip Gustafsson, who starts game 1. Doesn't matter. Like Fleury's 24-16 and 4.908 save percentage. We know what he can do in the playoffs. Gustafsson 22-9 and 7.931 save percentage. We don't know what Gustafsson can do in the playoffs, but I'm excited to find out. Gustafsson has been the better goaltender of the two for Minnesota through most of the season. It was almost to the point of it being a meme of me saying, give Gustafsson the net. And I vehemently argued for that, and I still stand by that. I think Gustafsson's been the better of the two goaltenders, but I totally understand why going into a playoff situation, Minnesota would say, all right, for game 1, it's Marc-Andre Fleury. He does have that resume. He does have that run in 2018 with Vegas, as well as 3 Stanley Cup rings. But I don't think that leash is going to be very long. I think if they lose game 1 against Dallas, especially if it's like 5-0 or 4-1, like those previous scores there, I think they'll show no fear of going over to Gustafsson. The interesting part is going to be how Dean Evason gets this done. So it is an odd situation where I do find myself as a Stars fan kind of on some level saying, if they lose to Minnesota, I'm okay with that. Minnesota's had a lot of pain since 2015. And really, when you think about the state and their hockey and their sports in general, a lot of pain in Minnesota sports. So if you look at their records over March and April, what's interesting is Dallas was better over that period. 16-5-1 over March and April, whereas Minnesota was 12-4-5, which it shows that they fell off a bit towards the end, but they had that incredible point streak there as well. So I don't want to take anything away from Minnesota. They're capable of getting hot at the right time. They do have a goaltender in Fleury that can get it done. I think their attack maybe a little bit underrated, but again, they need Johansson in the lineup. They need him to be healthy. They're going to need some lucky bounces here and there. But I don't think Dallas is going to be a juggernaut in this year's playoffs either. Dallas has to be smart. They have to play well, and they need big games from not just that top line of Rope, Hintz, Robertson, and Pavelski, but they need points from guys like Sagan. They need points from their bottom 6, which would include Kiviranta, which would include Faxa. And I don't think this is as lopsided as likely people will make it seem. I do think Minnesota can pull off an upset. And again, as a Dallas fan, if Dallas is going to lose in the playoffs, I'd rather it was to a team that I don't have any hatred towards, that I don't have any animosity towards. And while I've talked about not having animosity, there's also the fact that, again, if Minnesota wins the series, my wife would be quite happy about that. And honestly, it would be nice to see Minnesota win. So she's got all these fun Minnesota shirts and jackets and all this fun stuff. And Minnesota doesn't get out of the first round. So she can't really, wear that in all the live streams and get all proud of what her team's doing in the playoffs. Whereas for me with Dallas, I had that in 2020. They went all the way to the final with Hudobin. And last year, of course, they had that remarkable 7-game series against Calgary where Ottinger showed up. That was about it. And so we'll see what happens in the first round this year. Should be a fun one. Let me know your pick in the comment section below. Don't forget there's the polls on the channel as well, of course. But yeah, let me know your thoughts. Hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video, and I am taking Dallas. I am taking Dallas, but it's just barely, and I could easily see Minnesota winning this series. But let me know your thoughts. Thank you guys so much for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.